What's up, bomb ass moms? Welcome back to the Bomb Ass Moms podcast. I'm your girl, Erica.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Tierney, and we're the Bomb Ass Moms.
Yep, that's right. We're the Bum Ass Moms, and we want to make sure before we get started talking about an interesting topic today, which is generational parenting. As you all know, we discussed this early on, but we actually are going to go a little bit more into detail. But before we go into detail, we want to make sure we let you all know or remind you to follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. You can even email us at bumassmomspodcast@gmail.com. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, it's just Bum Ass Moms Podcast. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, keep listening.
All right, so this week we have a special guest, Miss Sheila. She is Ashley's mom, and she's here to talk about generational parenting in her generation. So, how she brought up her kids versus how we're bringing up our kids. And I think it's very important to get her point of view.
Hello, how y'all doing today?
We're
We're
good. How are you?
wonderful.
Great.
Okay, so Mom, we are going to, just ask you things and just answer us. And for the listeners out there that can relate to things that you're going to say.
Well, to start off, Miss Sheila, can you just tell us how old you were when you start having children and how many children you have?
Well, I was 18 and I have 3 kids.
Okay, you going to go into detail? Who are the 3 kids? You know it's me.
Okay. I have Corey, he's the oldest. I have Ashley, she's the middle baby. And I have Nicholas, he's the baby.
Okay. Okay, so how was it having a child at 18 years old? Because legally you're an adult, but sometimes we still feel like we're young. So that's still a young mom. How were you as a young mom?
I was 18, scared, but excited at the same time.
Did you have to do it by yourself? Were you a single parent? Did you have help? How was it? You just said you were scared at 18 having a baby. So what was life like? Like, what year was your oldest, my brother, born? What was it like? Did you have support? Can you kind of go a little bit more in detail about that?
Yes, I was 18, I was single. The support I got was from my family, which is my sisters, my mom, and my sisters. And it was 1981, by the way.
Okay.
But
So back in 1981, it sounds like your village was your family, your closest family, your sisters and your mom. So did you learn how to be a mom from your mom? Did you take her parenting skills or did you develop your own?
I developed my own.
So what made you develop your own style of parenting?
Well, what made me develop my own, we lived in the country. So them skills are totally different from when we came to the city. I came up with my own way because her way was, to me, a little crazy, but it was good because you bring.
Not crazy, Ma. Crazy? Oh, okay.
Yes.
What you mean?
Yeah, can you explain like some of her ways that you didn't want to adopt versus your ways? What made it crazy?
Being a young mother, crazy to me, I shouldn't say crazy then. It was just different. She'll tell me because I was a young mother, oh, you ain't got to handle the baby that way. Oh, you don't we didn't do this, or you can spank that child. She'll know, little things like that. I want to do things different from the way she raised us.
Oh, that sounds a little familiar, but we'll get into that.
Oh, we would like for you to be detailed and specific about things. So, what do you think that your mom was militant? Did you all get in trouble a lot? Is that what you're saying? Or do you think she was harder on you and you didn't want to be that hard?
No, I don't think my mother was actually hard on us because she was a working mom. So by
Okay.
her being a working mom, she was not there like I was for my kids. Now that part I did take on because I wanted better things for my kids. My mom back in the day worked a lot. So my sister basically was like our mom. And you do what your older sister say. And if she wanted to have fun, then it was more of her having her fun putting us down versus the way I wanted to do things. So I was a little working mom with 2 jobs, but trying to do the right thing. But I started teaching them because I was not taught that.
I don't see anything wrong with you wanting your children to be independent if they're at that level.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
to me, the level, I feel like, okay, if you're able to talk and walk, come on, we're going to do this, do that. But the way the kids are today, it's kind of crazy because they'll talk back. No, they'll fall out. Nah, we in the store. You hold on to that basket, baby, and don't put nothing in the basket unless not say you can. Now, children just put stuff in the basket, and mom be like, okay.
So I will say this. So let me go back real quick, Mom, before we get into, comparing how you did things versus how, we or new moms do things today. You said that your mom worked a lot, yes?
Yes,
And then you just said you worked two jobs too. Do you not feel that you worked a lot as well?
I did
I
say
mean, you
I
were there
did.
for
I
us.
said now there was one thing I did do was work a lot, but I still had that time for y'all, not the time that you want every day. But the weekend, y'all had my time.
Okay, I was just trying to clear up some things because I do recall you working a lot, and I understand now, that you were trying to do the best that you can for your children. So I just wanted to ask that because I know that there are some ladies out there listening that work a lot, or in your generation, those that are listening, they did what they needed to do for their children. So before we even move forward, I'm pretty sure the other ladies will have, questions for you, but let's backtrack to you said that you had your first child at 18. Can we talk about how old you were when you had your other two children? Or is there something I don't know in between?
I was 24 when I had Ashley, and I was 25 when I had Nick.
I wanted you to wait another 6 years, but that didn't happen like that. 13 months later, and I
Yes.
wasn't happy.
No, you weren't happy.
That's correct.
All
Yes,
right.
we're Irish twins,
I
almost
was
here.
just about to say that. So, since it had been 6 years since you had your first child, did you feel like there was a difference between how you parented your first child to Ashley? Because to me, that's a big age gap, 6 years. So, it's like you are more mature at this time. You've learned more about parenting, raising your child, and doing certain things for your child, and just, I guess, getting more comfortable with working and taking care of your child. Can you explain to us what was the difference in parenting, or was it the same for you?
It was almost the same, but I looked at her because she was a little girl, and I always wanted to protect my little girl. I didn't trust people around little girls. So there was a trust factor when it came to men.
You said 13 months later you had Nick. Tell us about your experience. How did that happen just 13 months later? How did you feel about getting pregnant again? What was involved in that situation?
Go tell it
Oh,
on the
Jesus.
mountain.
I asked him forgive me, but that one was somewhat planned, but it didn't go as planned.
Okay.
And one night on his birthday, we done it. Wound up pregnant. He said he'll be there for me. He loved me. So I took his word on it. And his grandmother got sick in Milwaukee. He said, well, baby, I'll be back before I had a baby. And we were still communicating back and forth. And he wasn't there. And the anger popped in. And so I was angry with him, didn't let him see his baby because he said he was going to be there. So I was angry because I made all these wrong choices when it came to men. And I had to evaluate and say no. And my mom had to tell me, don't be so mean because that child didn't do nothing. You did it. You chose that man. So I made that choice. And she said, don't ever keep a child from their father. Let them find out for themselves if they no good. And so I let him see his child 3 months later. And that was that. And he never decided he wanted to be in his life the way he should have as a father.
It sounds like you were a single parent for all three of your children, and your family was your support system. How old was your older sister that helped you?
Her age now is 63,
How much older is she of you?
4 years.
Okay. Did she have her own children back then?
She had her own, she had three.
So how was it her taking care? Well, I'm sure it's like a time difference, but her taking care of you and your siblings because your mom had to work, and then later on she had her own children, and then she was helping you with your children because you had to work as well?
Okay, to go back, our mother was always our babysitter until the kids got a certain age. Once they got a certain age, it was daycare. Or I moved out when I was 16, so I had my own place, paying my own bills and helping, but at the same time, we called one another. Far as when it came to parenting, or we always seen one another every weekend if someone didn't actually have something going on, and we still supported whoever had something going on. We were there.
Okay, so that's really big. So you said you moved out at 16. Was that normal back then, or were you just mature? You wanted to be self sufficient?
I just didn't want to be. I wanted to be independent, but then
Okay.
responsibilities are huge.
Miss Sheila, how did your, because you said you moved out at 16, how did your mom feel about you wanting to live on your own at 16?
Well, she didn't want me to move because she said the responsibilities are hard. And since I was so determined to have my own, she said she'd let me find out for myself. But at that time, I was making money, so I was able to afford whatever it is I wanted.
Okay. Being 16. So did you have an apartment,
Yes.
a house?
Okay, I'm
Like,
sorry. I had an apartment. I had a two-bedroom apartment.
okay. And they let you sign back then, they let you sign for a lease at 16?
No, I had a friend. Her name was on the lease. She was a friend of my mother's, and she signed it for me, but I was there. I was the one living there. And what I used to do would babysit for her and say, "Oh, I'm not going to have any kids this early." Well, at an early age, but I wind up my first time and I became pregnant because back then I was more like a tomboy. So I didn't think, first time you would get pregnant. I was naive. I did not know.
Okay.
Okay, Mom. So you just said you made this point, and we can talk about it a little later. You know how you just said you moved out at 16, you had good money, and you were babysitting. Keep that in mind because we're gonna ask questions about what your thoughts were about me moving out at 16 because
Oh, no,
def-
honey.
definitely completely different.
Yes, ma'am. I was naive, but I was not crazy. I didn't have company and stuff like that. No. I met Corey's father and he came, but not like that. At 16, I was working, I was still going to school, and I was doing for mom at the same time. So when I became 18, then I got a different job. It was totally different. I never wanted to move back home, but I realized the responsibility is nothing nice. No, at that time, financially, invest and do this with money, I was just basically paying mama's bills and my bills. I never knew to save. And then when I did start to save, it was basically wasn't enough for me.
Okay, so you've been giving us some insight of how things were as a parent back in the day in the
80s.
1980s. Had two children born in 19 no, all three of your children were born in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
early 80s and late 80s. And I've just been listening and hearing you how you did certain things and moving out and having a child at 18 and building your support system or having that support, which is phenomenal. Back then, I don't know how easy it was to build a village, but in today's society, it's not that easy when you don't have that family support. So far, thank you for sharing because you didn't have to, but you did.
You're welcome.
We're gonna take a real quick break, and then we'll come back because Miss Sheila got a lot to say.
All right, welcome back, ladies. So, just continuing on the conversation with Miss Sheila. So, Miss Sheila, I want to know, it's three generations that we are now talking about in parenting, which is how your mom raised you, how you raised your children, and how you feel that your children raise their children now. I know you said you had a lot to say.
She does.
How do you feel your parenting is different from hers?
Oh, wow. Okay. First of all, I like to say, you go, girl. She is doing the thing. All this technology that the kids get today is like, it's a lot. Get the books. He get books. He's a smart, intelligent young man, but he's a little bit, his mouth is a little smart too.
Okay, so there's 2 points there. Do you feel like it's disrespectful for him to be able to just be around adults when they're speaking and interrupting?
I think it's not bad if he's around adults, but if the adult is not talking to the child, he doesn't give his opinion the way he gives it. We weren't talking to you, so you don't interrupt. Some parents allow their child to sit there and listen to the conversation that they're having with someone else. Me, go in the next room because this is not a conversation for you.
To me, I feel that you do have a point. As I was growing up, that's how it was. Like, you do not interrupt adults. If the conversation doesn't involve you, you shouldn't involve yourself.
Right.
Sometimes parents, we do have a difference in opinion when it comes to that. Ashley, how do you feel about that? I mean, maybe do you feel like your mom is perceiving this correctly, or is it a little different of what you think?
So I won't disagree with my mom that sometimes my child does interject. Back then, yes, we would get popped in the mouth or get ready to get a spanking or something or get yelled at. However, she did make a couple of good points. Like, technology is very different now than it was back then. Heck, I didn't get a cell phone or let alone on a computer or social media until I was 17 or 18, but now it is a little bit different. I do think that some words that my child say I wasn't allowed to say. I do think that, can certain things be better? And does my child interject sometimes? Yes, but we kind of talked about this in a previous episode. Do we think that it's disrespectful, or do we think that something is wrong with our children asking questions or asking why? I think that's another difference. Back then, there was no asking why or asking questions. It was just, this is what she said and this is how it goes. Where nowadays, my son is very inquisitive, and so he wants to know. The interjecting, I don't necessarily agree with it, and I'm trying to nip it in the bud. So I know that that is a difference. But how I was raised, I don't necessarily take some of the stuff over to how I'm raising my child.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes sense. We're in a different time now, and we just have to find new ways to parent. Another thing, so about technology, right? We know that things advance every day. So, Ashley, and I do this with my child. He's only 18 months. So he only has a certain amount of time where I allow him screen time. So he can only watch cartoons maybe an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. Do you limit the time that Andrew is using technology?
I used to, but when he's playing video games, I don't necessarily look to say, okay, it's been 3 hours, but I don't let him spend like all day, 12 hours on technology. I know that when he was growing up, like as a kid, when I would let him watch TV or and take him to the doctor would inquire about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't necessarily watch the time, but is he more into technology now? Yeah, more so the video games. I mean, he's 9, and I think that's what interests him. But do I take something away that he loves when he's not listening? Yes. We didn't have video. I mean, we had Sega. When we have Nintendo 64, I don't know.
Yes.
But when we got in trouble, the game cords got cut. It was no taking away. They cut the
Really?
yeah, you cut the cords. And then you had your mechanic husband tape it back together. So that was a big difference. If you're gonna kill it, kill it. Like, don't go try to fix it. But we got it taken away and broke. But for the listeners out there, I want them to understand, like, it is completely different. And it's somebody out there that can relate to UNITY. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
But what I'm saying is, it's different. But she spoils my child as if, why do grandparents spoil kids?
so we can let you see the difference.
No, what you mean?
We spoil them because we have to send them right on back to you. We don't have to raise them.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Send them right back to mom. Okay, I done spoiled you a little bit. Now going back to mom. See how you raise yours.
So, Miss Sheila, let me ask you a question. Do you feel that Ashley now has to find her way with parenting like you had to find your way with parenting?
Yes.
Because a lot of the ways how you raised her, we take things from our moms, our parents, but it doesn't mean that everything our parents, how our parents raised us, that's how we're going to raise our
Right.
children. Now, we'll take some things, but like I said, do you feel just like, because, you told us in the beginning, how you've raised your children and you made a point, well, you told us about how you moved out at 16. For me, that's a big thing because I'm like, wow, it's moving out at 16.
Yeah, because the world was not
So,
the way it is today.
right, right,
And we
right, right,
had that
right,
village of people that would watch over us and help us.
right, right. I do agree with you there. I do agree with you there.
So, Mom, we talking about how things are different between how you raised me and me raising my child. I mean, what do you had two other children? Was it different raising boys compared to how they raised their children? I'm just asking because I did feel as though, I'm a girl. You said it in the beginning that, you didn't trust anyone around me or you felt like you had to protect me. And so I felt like the rules were a little bit stricter for me being a girl versus
Yes, it
your two
was.
sons.
I really hate my mindset was there at, as a mom, but rules are always going to be a little stricter for girls. If I had, let's just say you had that father figure role in your life, girls is always going to be protected because we already know it. Well, men, they already know what they after. So I wanted to protect you.
Okay. Your sons, do they have children?
Oh God, yes.
My mama is
Uh,
so old school, y'all. She be like, daughter's baby, daddy's
And
maybe.
they dad
Mm.
is maybes. Got four that's truly my grandbabies. But they say I have seven. I don't know. I feel like all men need a blood test regardless.
God.
So let me ask you a question because I know it's a difference between girls and boys. How do you feel? Do you feel that it's a difference between how they parent their children to how Ashley parents her son?
Oh, my boys don't parent shit. I mean, nothing. But I can say, us women, we have to still be there raising our kids regardless. So I think Ashley
Absolutely.
does a wonderful job, but she could do a whole lot better when it comes to the yelling. That I know from me, because she'll yell. I tell her, get a ASS over there in a minute. But boys, they feel like, okay, they with their moms. So I'm good. I go by and see them every now and then. I hated that because I'd rather for them to been married, having kids, than to just go to this woman, that woman, and say, "Oh, she pregnant." Well, you need a blood test.
Yeah, I'm guilty of yelling at my child, but I'm telling you, I've said in previous episodes, I'm in therapy and I'm working on it, and certain things aren't going to change overnight. And so the thing is, I acknowledged it. And I'm moving forward. We're trying to get better. And so for those out there that, every now and then you might fly off the handle for like 2.5 seconds, acknowledge it, own it, and try to be better. That's it.
That's right.
That's true.
That's right. That's right. I feel like it's a lesson, every day in parenting. Again, we talked about that in previous episodes that, we don't have manuals when it comes down to parenting. There are times we're going to be challenged. And I'm sure, Miss Sheila, you can attest to that.
Amen. Amen.
Being challenged as a parent. But like you said, Ashley, just picking back on what you were saying, just if you, because I have a tendency of doing that too with my child, yelling. I think I have good reason, but
Ha ha.
when it comes to yelling, I try to think before I say or try to before I go to that point. When I say good reason with yelling, if I feel like if I told you numerous of times or asked you numerous of times to do something and then I feel like it's still not getting done, then I feel like that's where the yelling comes
Okay,
into
how old
play.
is your child?
So my child, so I have two children, Sheila.
Okay.
My oldest, he's going to be 16 December the 27th. and I have a 1 year old. He'll be one January the 26th. So I got a big age gap.
Yes, Lord, you do. It's like starting
Yes.
all over again.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Since y'all
Yes.
the
Yes.
newer generation, question.
Hmm.
You work, right?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, and your son go to school.
Yes, ma'am. Every day.
So your youngest,
So during the week, my fiance on Monday, so my fiance he works overnight. So he works for UPS, so he drives. On Mondays, he doesn't have to go to work. Of course, he doesn't have to be at work until night. So he's here with him during the day. And of course, on Tuesdays, his mom comes over. Well, his mom comes over Monday nights and she stays over the Tuesdays to babysit. And then Wednesday through Friday, my aunt, she watches him.
oh,
So, yeah, yeah, I got a village going
yeah,
on
you
over
got a
here.
village. I was just finna say, and do your 17-year-old watch him?
My soon to be
I
16
mean,
year old,
16.
are you saying by himself?
Yes.
No. So, no, no.
Okay, why you
I
don't
haven't
trust
got
that
well, it's not that I don't trust. He's not, you know how you feel
they're
that
not mature enough
your
to
child
watch.
is, yeah, I'm not going to say that he's not capable of watching him, but we haven't allowed him that chance. And again, he's, I don't know. Yeah,
You got
no,
the
I just
village,
don't feel like
but your 16-year-old can't watch the baby for a second, or two, or a day.
I mean, he can watch him for a second. Like if I'm in the house, yes, he can watch him. Like if I have to get in the shower or if it's something that I need to get done, yes. But as far as leaving him at home by himself with him, no. Because
Mike,
again,
you allow Corey to watch me? He's 6 years older than me, not necessarily that big of a gap.
Girl,
It's the
your
same
brother
thing.
was not that damn. You know your brother is not
I
that.
get it.
I'm just he's 16, and one day I was just gonna suggest you and your fiance say, "Oh, we finna go to the movies." You know the movie ain't no more than an hour or two.
Well, that's easier said than done.
No, I'm serious. It's according to how far the movie is away. And allow your 16-year-old to watch your son, his brother, and see how that goes. Did you have a hard time? You giving him a schedule. Because when you say you yell at him sometimes when he don't get things done, now this another human being. So see how he responds to the rule. I mean, the list just to see if he do it.
I want to ask, what would this show, what would this prove if she gave her son that small responsibility of watching his baby brother for like an hour or two while they go to the movies?
I was trying to get her to see that, okay, if when it come to the point of her yelling, she said she might have to ask him several times to do something. That's just to see where his mindset is when it comes to responsibility. It's stability. I'm trying to get her to see if he is responsible, then okay, he know how to do this and know how to do that. She knows that. So let's see where the responsibility will come in at if he so happen to go out there and get a little girl pregnant.
Oh my.
well, Miss Sheila, listen, I hope that doesn't happen.
Me too. Me too.
I hope yeah, I hope that does not happen. But I'm gonna say for my son because he's been the only child for 15 years before my youngest came along. When I think about maturity, he's mature to a certain degree, but can I say that you're right? Maybe I will think about that in the future because I'm sure it's gonna come along. He getting up there, and yeah, you're right. He's learning. I'm just gonna say he's
I ain't
learning.
gonna say he
So
could
we
be the
do take
babysitter,
steps.
but it's more of okay, just in case something come up, can you be responsible enough to do this? That's all I'm
Well,
trying to say.
yeah, I think if something just like an emergency or something like that came up, I think he would be fine enough to leave to watch over his brother. Not for long,
See
but
there, you keep see something ain't right there. You keep saying not for long. No,
Well, Ma, he has to learn. He has to
yeah, he
learn.
I
has to
know,
learn.
but at the same
Yeah,
time, shouldn't he be learning now?
To each his own. Maybe that's not how she
I
wants to do
that's what
business.
I'm saying. The
So
generation
that's
today
not
is totally different. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to get at because I think the generation today is a little bit different than your generation, maybe because it was expected that, okay, how, just like your family, right? You said your sister and your mom was your support system, and you probably expected that. I'm not sure, but you expected, hey, this is where my help is going to come from since the
Mm-mm.
fathers are not around.
Nope.
It just
No, I
happened that
didn't.
way.
It just happened that
Okay.
way.
Okay. But I think like today, even me as a mom, I wouldn't expect like my children to have their responsibility of watching their younger siblings. So I want them to be capable, like Erica said, like I want you to have the ability to watch your little brother or sister if something may come up at the last minute. But for me, I don't want them to feel like it's their responsibility, because it's not. It's
No, it's
it's
not.
just your sibling. You're here, you can play with them, have a relationship with them, but you're not the babysitter. We can hire a babysitter for your little brother and sister while we go out, but it's not that oldest person responsibility. Unless if this is a chore for you, I'll pay you. It sounds crazy, but like I'll pay you be a babysitter for 1 or 2 hours while we go out. I don't think it should have to be their responsibility.
I agree, Tyrion. I think that's the difference between now and back then. I know my mom said her sister and my grandma helped, but I think I hear older people say, "Hey, back then I had to be the parent for my siblings, or I was the one watching over my siblings, my younger siblings, because I had to step up because that was what I had to do."
No, I'm not.
That's not what I want.
No, I don't want that either. But I'm just saying there, it's a responsibility. Hey, there's conversations you have with your children. When it comes to y'all yelling at your kids, because I yelled at you all. Sometimes you can put too much on your plate, and you don't have to have all that on your plate.
I get that, mom, but watching a baby ain't one of the responsibilities that we may be ready for. We
No,
maybe
I'm
again, maybe
just
an
saying,
hour.
for see how the brotherly love goes.
You just want to see where his mind is if she asks, "Hey, would you watch your brother for a second?" Not that if he would do it or not.
That too.
I don't know. I just don't agree. But
Hmm.
I just think our generation today, Miss Sheila, when we do have children, again, just picking back up of what Tierney said, it's not something that we're gonna just require. Like, they have older siblings, like that's something that's not gonna be required. Back in you guys' day, it was something just that was just required of your siblings. Like that's something that you have to do. Like your siblings, if you had an older sibling, your mom worked, that was required of your older siblings. You
Hmm.
got to watch your
Yes.
little brothers and sisters. And as in our generation today, it's like it ain't like they have a choice. Now that we just do things differently.
Yes.
So I guess again that's the difference between our generation today and then your generation back then.
yeah, and you made a point, Mom. You said, I'm just going back real quick when we inquired about my brothers, and you said my brothers don't know how to parent. Do you think, and we could talk about this for another day, do you think that because you were a single parent and you was a woman trying to raise men and they kind of saw how you parented, that they picked up or did not pick up certain things, how they should or should not raise their children? Because again, you just told us on here how you raised us and how your parenting style is, and we're on this topic of discussion, and I raised Andrew completely different how you raised us.
Hmm.
So
In their life, they could have turned out a whole lot better than what they are, and they getting there. But when it comes to raising their kids, they feel, and your brothers are included, felt like if the women that they were with, that okay, that's your baby, it might be my baby, I ain't got to be there every day. You the one acting the fool. So when it come to that, that's just the way they are right now, and they trying to mature a little now for being there for their kids. They just a single mom, as you said, trying to raise boys to men somewhat was hard if the single mom didn't have the tools that she need or maturity mindset that she need when it came to raising boys.
and I ask that because I am in a situation where I am raising a boy. I am now a single parent in this newer generation, trying my best to co-parent with Andrew's dad. So I just asked, do you think it would have been a little bit different
It would have, but like I said, you trying to co-parent and you say certain things and he say certain things. Co-parented is y'all need to get on one accord when you're there.
So I get that. But again, I'm not disagreeing, but I think that this is where
We're different.
you're telling me how I should parent, and sometimes I don't necessarily agree with that. That's all. Sometimes I think your input is like this is how you should do or this is how you shouldn't do, but it's completely different. That's it.
Yeah.
So I just it's all good. At the end of the day, you raised your kids to the best that you could do. I
Yes.
am raising a child to the best that I can do, and we're gonna see how things turn out in a few years. So yeah.
Okay. Back then, yes, I did the best I can. Right now, since the generation is totally different.
Miss Sheila, do you feel like we have more resources for us to do better or be better parent? I just want to see like what's the difference, because we could look back at our childhood and say, "Oh, our parents could have done better." And then you're saying like in our generation, we could do better as parents. So, what
You
makes it different?
what makes it different? Yes, you all do have the resources. Y'all have the resources, and back then, as I don't want to put race in it, but a lot of us just didn't know that there were resources out there for us. And because we worked so that time that, let's just say, when we did find out about the resources, it was more of, okay, do I take off work in order to do this? Or do I need to be lacking of this week? Little things like that. So we chose work. Some of y'all have two people there. And when it's one, then it's a little bit different and they'll see that. I'm just saying the resources they just wasn't there. I didn't take the time out to research. So y'all have
Oh,
that. We don't. I mean, I don't right now. I didn't take the time out.
okay, Mom. Well, we really appreciate you sharing all of this good insight on how things were back then of you raising your children and how things are now. We can go on and
We
on, but
can.
we'll say that for another day. But before we get off, with the people that are listening out there, we want you to give us some advice on how we can this newer generation that could be taken from the how you raise your kids moving forward.
I would say some advice I would give is some of the technology. Kids don't know about two square, four square. They don't know about card games. You should communicate, talk to your kid a little bit more so you know that they will understand and you understand them. Because when you talking to them, make sure they understand. Some advice I would give you: take some of the technology away and teach them about more outside. Kids don't know about outside, they know about technology in the house, games.
Okay, you're right, because computers and the internet wasn't around back in
No, so outside
that.
games they don't know about. Teach them certain survival skills that they need.
Okay, that's some good advice. We want to thank you for being on the Bum Ass Moms podcast and sharing your insight. We're gonna wrap it up.
We appreciate you talking to us. It's definitely going to be a good episode. A lot of laughs.